Hi guys, it's Fentony. Season 7 episode 6 just officially aired, so now I'm going to do my review, and there will be spoilers in this video, so if you've not seen the episode yet, don't watch this video until you have. I'm sure you guys know that this episode actually leaked on Tuesday. HBO messed up big time, and it was posted in some countries far too early. So this is the big second to last episode of the season. Episode 9, or 6 in this case, is where all the big bad stuff happens. We had Ned's execution, the Battle of Blackwater, the Red Wedding, the Battle at Castle Black, the Dance of the Dragons in the Fighting Pits, and then the Battle of the Bastards last year. This episode is worthy of being named with those episodes, but it has some problems. It is an epic episode and it has amazing moments, but it's so rushed. It should have been split into 2, maybe 3 episodes. They should have had the group travelling beyond the wall as its own episode, and then the big fight is another. Gendry made it back to the wall, and then the Raven made it to Dragonstone, and then Daenerys made it all the way from Dragonstone to the wall, all whilst Jon and the group were fighting the Whites. My biggest complaint in Season 7 is the pace, and this episode has the worst pacing so far, but the huge moments do make up for it. So let's talk about the episode and what's all the important stuff. So last episode we found out that the 7 heroes that are going beyond the wall are Jon, Gendry, Forrest of Mere, Beric Dondarrion, Jorah, Tormund and the Hound. This is some team and we get some fantastic conversations between them. Everyone in the group got their own time to shine and I loved it. I especially loved the scenes between Jon and Jorah when he offered Jorah Longclaw. Jorah did refuse the sword as he says it belongs to Jon now and he brought disgrace to his house so he has no right to claim the sword. Beric's another great character and I love his words of wisdom to Jon Snow. Death is the enemy, the first and the last, and we still need to fight him. His flaming sword is so epic and I love seeing him cut down the Whites with it. His hand's always on the pommel and some people are thinking that this sword might be special and I'm starting to agree with them. Tormund and the Hound stole the conversations though, especially when they talked about Brienne. I can't wait for the Hound to meet Brienne again, and I can't emphasise how great these 7 characters are together. There are random wildlings and I think members of Jon Snow's group that went with him to Dragonstone, but they don't really matter. They all die anyway. It's only the named characters we care about. The mountain that the Hound saw in the flames is in this episode, and it is the same one that we saw when Bran went back and seen the Night King be created. We don't stay with Jon the entire episode, and I thought this was a terrible idea. I didn't care for Sansa and Arya this episode. Arya does confront Sansa about the letter that Sansa wrote to Robb back in season 1 and the one that Arya found last episode in Littlefinger's room, and then Sansa tells Littlefinger. Later in the episode, Sansa does go into Arya's room and she finds the faces, and it looks like them two are about to clash, and Sansa's like, I've got men protecting me, and Arya's like, they're not here now, but then Arya gives Sansa the Valyrian steel dagger. It's very strange as the tension seems a bit forced, and Arya thinks that Sansa will betray Jon and make herself queen, and we do get a scene where Sansa has been invited to King's Landing, but she wants to send Brienne instead. Sansa was not very nice to Brienne, so I'm a bit confused here. I've always been sure that Sansa and Arya were playing Littlefinger, and with Bran they're working to get rid of him, but Sansa's attitude this episode was just off, and the tension was just boring. I don't know why we went here this episode. But I did enjoy Arya talking about Ned watching her shoot an arrow, but this should have been done last episode. You can't tease us with Jon Snow and White Walkers and put other stuff in the episode. So I'm done talking about Winterfell, so back up to Jon. The first big action scene of this episode is actually a white polar bear that attacks the group. Beric and Forrest have their flaming sword, which are great anti-white weapons. Some randoms do get killed, but the Hound is frozen in fear by the sight of the white bear and it's on fire. Forrest does push the Hound out of the way, but the bear does maul him, and then the bear is killed by, it looks like Ser Jorah with the dragon glass, but Forrest is badly wounded. I think Forrest is a great character, especially this season, and I love the dynamic going on between Forrest, Beric and the Hound. Beric does burn Forrest's wound with his sword, so nobody's died just yet. The action doesn't stop this episode though, as the group find a White Walker with some Whites, and this is their chance. Jon kills the White Walker pretty easily, which I didn't like. The one at Hardhome gave Jon a very hard time, and to be honest I thought the White Walker could have beat Jon any time until at the moment when Jon got Longclaw and both the White Walker and Jon were a bit confused about why the sword didn't shatter, and then Jon was quick enough to react. But this one died pretty easily. A couple hits and then Jon just sliced it in half. So we've got a major revolution here. When Jon Snow kills the White Walker, all but one white are destroyed. This means if the White Walker who turned the whites dies, then the magic that controls the whites breaks. Beric even says later that if they kill the Night King, then all the whites and all the White Walkers should die, as he turned them all. So the group capture the white and they all pin him down and start beating the crap out of him, but it actually screams and alerts the army. And Jon sends Gendry back to Eastwatch to send a raven to Daenerys as he's the fastest, and this is where the episode starts to fall down. Gendry ran back to Eastwatch in no time, but we don't actually know how far the group are. They might have only been 5 miles north, but the raven going to Dragonstone and Daenerys flying up was far too quick for me. And the rest of the group run to a frozen lake and make it to a large rock. But the whites can't actually follow as the ice breaks, and it seems like they don't like water. So the group stands and waits for Daenerys to come and save them. So how long were they stood there for? It must have been a few days, as Dragonstone is on the other side of Westeros. It's just east of King's Landing, and we're beyond the wall. This is where Forrest of Mere dies from his wounds and his body is burnt by Beric, so Beric has no priest to revive him now. This is also where Beric says, kill the Night King and the rest will die, and the Night King stares Jon down. I'm sure Jon Snow and the Night King are connected. The Night King did look a bit weird in this scene though. I still prefer the original Night King who was in season 4 and 5 to this one who started in season 6, but hey, he's still pretty good. We also go to Dragonstone this episode, but I wasn't complaining as it's kinda connected to the stuff going beyond the wall. I loved how Dany doubts that Jon loves her, and she says to Tyrion that he's too little, but then she quickly recovers and says she didn't mean any offense to Tyrion. Tyrion definitely has a crush on Daenerys, and the scenes at Dragonstone back this up, but Dany's head over heels for Jon. Tyrion tries to stop her going, saying you can't go, if you die it's all over, but Daenerys does take all 3 of her dragons north to save Jon, and I must say Daenerys' white coat is fantastically beautiful. It resembles Viserion with the white and gold. She has had a black coat with a red cape which kinda resembles Drogon, so I wonder if she's gonna have a green one for Rhaegal. So back up to Jon again. The Hound continues with his epicness. He throws a rock at one white and knocks its jaw off. He calls it dumb, and another word which I won't say here. But the Hound throws another one and he misses. And the ice doesn't crack, so the whites go, that's it, we can run now. And they all come across the lake. And Tormund nearly dies in the fight, and I actually thought that he might die this episode. But he was saved by the Hound. And I'm glad he didn't, because Tormund is fantastic. So it's just like the Battle of the Bastards here where we get a scene where Jon Snow kind of accepts death and is ready to fight to the end. But Daenerys arrives with all 3 dragons and the dragons torch the whites and they melt the ice to stop the whites coming closer to the group. And everyone gets on Drogon. And Daenerys seems very happy that Jon's okay and she tries to reach out to him. But Jon starts fighting the whites to stop them getting to the group on the dragon. So Jon's kind of sacrificing himself here. And the white that the group did capture is actually on the dragon. And I think the Hound impaled him onto one of Drogon's spikes. The dragons fighting the whites was probably the most epic thing we've seen in the entire series, to be honest. This is the big scene here though. The Night King is the Olympic javelin champion and he throws an ice spear into Viserion's neck, which makes the fire inside of the dragon explode and he starts pouring out blood from his neck, and then Viserion falls onto the ice and his eyes shut and he sinks into the water. It was a very sad scene, especially how Rhaegal flew over Viserion. I've always thought that Rhaegal and Viserion were pretty close and they were always together, so I bet Rhaegal's gonna be pretty upset. This might be even what causes him to start bonding with Jon Snow. Drogon is there too and he roars, but it's Jon's reaction that wins it. He rages and starts chopping down the whites and stares the Night King down, and it looks like we're gonna get the Night King versus Jon Snow, but the Night King gets another ice spear and he's aiming for Drogon. Jon does tell Daenerys to leave, and it looks like Daenerys doesn't really want to leave Jon, but she has to. The Night King does miss as Drogon flies off, so Jon's left and he's pushed under the ice by the whites. So Jon climbs out of the water, and no way was Jon dying. He's not dying anytime soon, until the very end at least. The whites are ready to kill Jon, but Benjen Stark comes to the rescue. And Jon is pretty happy to see Benjen, and this is the first time they've seen each other since season 1. And Jon wants Benjen to come with him, but Benjen sacrifices himself so Jon can escape on the horse. Benjen's not mentioned by Jon in the aftermath, but I hope he says something next episode, or maybe to his family when he gets back to Winterfell at some point. So Jon makes it back to Eastwatch, and Daenerys is watching over the wall, hoping that he comes back. She's so happy to see Jon, and then when Jon's brought in and his clothes are removed, she sees Jon Snow's scars. She was curious about what Davos meant when he said Jon took a knife in the heart, and now she's seen it. It seems like Tormund and Beric are now manning the wall, and the Hound is going to King's Landing with Daenerys and Jon to show the white to Cersei. So Daenerys is watching over Jon as he wakes up, and he apologises for Viserion's death and he wished he never went beyond the wall. But Daenerys says she had to see it for herself. She is upset about Viserion's death as he was a child of hers in her eyes, but she wants revenge and she promises to destroy the Night King. And Jon actually calls Daenerys Dany for the first time, which is her nickname. I don't know how Jon knows that Daenerys has been called Dany, as only Viserys has been seen to call her this, and he's been dead since season 1. And Dany does say that he was the last person to call her that, and that Viserys was not a nice person. So Jon does say, not Dany then, how about my queen? He doesn't literally bend the knee as he can, they are in love and they hold hands. Jon does say his people will accept her as their queen once she sees how amazing she is, and I thought Jon and Dany would have sex this episode, but Jon is hurt so Dany lets him sleep. So the big ending scene is the Whites pulling out Viserion with giant chains. Where did they get the chains from, and where are the giants? They were in episode 1, why are they not pulling out the dragon? Probably CGI budget. So the Night King walks up to Viserion and places his hand on the dead dragon's head, and then Viserion's eyes turn blue. And the Night King has a frickin' white dragon. This is massive and it changes a lot. This was an amazing episode and it should be regarded as one of the best ever, but the pace really hurt it. I would say it's in the top 10, but if it was split up and more time was taken, then the big dragon versus White Walker scene could have been easily top 3, or it could have possibly pushed out Hardhome, Winds of Winter and Battle of the Bastards as number 1. It's a shame, but that's season 7 for you. It's epic, but it's too fast. There was a lot of death in this episode, so let's take a moment to appreciate the 3 named characters that died. Forrest of Myr, Benjen Stark, and Viserion. So what do you think? Did you enjoy this episode? Was it too fast? Did the epic moments make up for it? So leave all your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.